Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips. And I have a couple of announcements that I think are important. One is we had our first happy hour last Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I think it was wonderful. Actually, the whole idea is an hour of positivity, no negative stuff allowed. And everybody, my cat joined. I did this from home, and other people had their animals who joined in, and we talked about good things that are happening. There's always something good to think about. And sometimes just being around other people where the rules are only good is good for you. It was good for me. I felt like after I got off the group, it was a Zoom group, that I was glad I was there, and I'm in a pretty good space. So anyway, happy hour is a member benefit. We also have Lose the COVID 25 and Lessons from COVID if you want to learn about a little bit about virology and herd immunity and just really what's going on, mutations, and just some basics of COVID that I think would be helpful. These are good courses. And then you've been asking for it, I'm going to do it. I'm teaching a COVID vaccine course on June 14th at 7. I'm only putting 150 people in this group. So if you want to sign up, we're selling it like hotcakes because a lot of people are really interested in this information. Excuse me. So you can call our office at 614-841-7700 or send me an email at pampopper@msn.com. And also I'm doing a career conference call on May 24th. That'll be the last one before summer semester starts. So if you're thinking of taking some professional development classes from us, or you're thinking that you want to get into a different branch of healthcare than you're currently in, or you want to be in healthcare and you're not, participate in that call. These calls are really good. Lots of great discussion and questions and that sort of thing. All right, so today I'm going to do the final installment in this series, which I was asked to do by a couple of people on grief and grieving. And I just want to, for the record, let you guys know I'm not a therapist. That's not my bailiwick. I'm just talking from personal experience for whatever that's worth, all right? So in the previous videos, we've talked about numbness and denial and pain and guilt and anger and sadness. And we've also talked about the importance of processing these emotions. I don't think you can just ignore it and think it's going to go away. But all of this agony, and I know it's agony because I've been there, does end at some point in time, and then some good things can follow. And I think the first thing that happens is just the stopping of rumination. And by rumination, I mean, and you guys have done this, I do it all the time. Something happens that bothers me, and I think about it all the time. I replay it in my mind, and then I think about different alternative ways that it could have happened. And I could have said this, or I could have done that, or could have just been quiet, or whatever. And I do it a lot. I do that more than I should probably. But in the case where something's really gone sideways, I do it a lot. And then the other thing with the rumination is compulsion. It's something to do to distract yourself. And we all have different things than we do. And I used to do destructive stuff, but now I'm a lot more constructive. So, I stopped cleaning the garage floor and organizing my shoes and the whole 9 yards and get back to some kind of normal living. I do have to say, though, some of the most productive times in my life have been when something bad, quote unquote, happens, and I'm, in that ruminating stage where I'm trying to keep myself busy and not think about so much. So if you ever come to my house and the flower beds are all looking perfect and you walk in and go, gosh, these floors are amazing, and there's no stacks of anything anywhere, and we could sit down and eat on the garage floor, it would actually look like a safe place to be. You'll know I've been distracting myself for a while. Something's gone sideways and I've been keeping myself busy. But at some point in time, all this goes away and you just think, okay, I don't have to do that anymore. And this is a sign that you moved on to just accepting things the way they are, and you can move on. And I'll tell you what has always bothered me about acceptance, and it might be you too, is it seems like it's giving up. And it can seem like that, but really I've always tried to, not always, but since I've been a grown up, and that wasn't, by the way, by virtue of age, that was by virtue of deciding to make something out of myself. I've always felt that reframing it as being ready to leave behind whatever it was and just move on. And here's something I've noticed, by the way. I like it a lot better when I'm the person who leaves behind instead of when somebody else does it to me. And I mean, that's part of why we're having this discussion is we're all being excommunicated by family members and all these fractured relationships, and you can't come to this church anymore, whatever. And I think the reason why this is so painful is ego. We all have an ego, and it's not necessarily a bad thing unless it gets in the way of living life well. And I've noticed in my own self, ego is closely related to pride, and too much of both of these are not a good thing. So I've sometimes had to ask myself, am I really devastated about this because my feelings are hurt, or is it more because my ego has been bruised and I may be feeling a little more insecure as a result of what's happened? It's an interesting conversation to have with yourself, because sometimes it helps us to remind ourselves that the way somebody treats us has less to do with us than it does to do with them. And I can tell you from prior experience, you know, back when I was extraordinarily dysfunctional and I was extraordinarily irresponsible and volatile and I acted out, I'm sure that I hurt a lot of people. I know for a fact I actually did. And it really had less to do with them than it did to do with just the awful space that I was in at the time. And I remember that, and it helps me to see that it's not directed at me all the time. It has less to do with me than I sometimes imagine. And I guess even that is a demonstration of ego, that I could think that everything going on has something to do with me, when actually not a whole lot of what's going on has much to do with me. But the bottom line is, through all this, you get to a place of acceptance, and it's that magical time when you just realize this is the way it is. I mean, it is not going to change, and it's okay. I mean, it's not only is it not going to change, but you're really not caring about much changing at this point. You're not in pain, and you're not sad and mad and guilty and all that other stuff we've been talking about. It just is. And at that point, you start to look forward to things again. And you actually think that the future holds promise. And you know what? It really does. So some of you are experiencing this with COVID. That has been the trigger for all this. And then some of you have specific people and institutions and groups and places and that sort of thing where this has been the case. And you just have to go through the process. You can't circumvent the process. And every time in my life I've tried to do it, everybody usually paid for it. I paid for it, and then, you know, splat on everybody else too. So I've just learned to take the time and go through it. Just feel what you feel. Don't park in the rumination stage for very long, because that's a path to nowhere. But you do have to sort of go through this. And you know what the nice part about going through it is that the next time around, you kind of know in advance, this is going to be painful. I don't like this, but I'm going to go through this whole range of stuff, and my garage floor will be clean again, and my flower beds will be perfect, and the floors will look great, and everything will be filed, and I'll be all caught up, and it'll be all right. You know, at the end, it'll be all right. And there's that movie, that line from that movie, everything turns out okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end. And I remember that. I was told by a friend, a very good friend, a long time ago. And I remember that. I kind of live by that. And so, I don't know. I hope that's helpful. There's no way to go through life without pain and agony and all that sort of thing. And I remember that scene from Oh God. Remember that movie with George Burns? And the little girl says, I don't understand, if you're God, why you let bad things happen. And he said, because I never figured out how to have good without bad, and up without down, and a front without a back. I mean, in many ways, the way that our lives get molded is to respond to good and bad things, you know, and you can only have something good in reference. It has to be in reference to something, right? Better has to be in reference to something. We live in a very relative world in some respects. And so the good is sometimes what is created by the crisis of the bad. And so anyway, sometimes life just sucks, and it's okay to say that. And then sometimes it's incredibly spectacular. And if you can spend more time on the spectacular side, that's really when you've got life a little bit figured out. All right, so there'll be another video tomorrow posted somewhere else. If you want to get these videos, you have to subscribe. All right, my newsletter comes out on Monday. You have to subscribe. We don't post it anywhere. So send an email to pampopper@msn.com if you want to subscribe to that stuff. I'll be back to you with more news tomorrow. Thanks for watching.